Brad, I think you might have had some
Yes.
thoughts around groups.
Yeah, just quickly, I wanted to. I'm not sure if anyone else has heard about this organization. They're called the Non-Human Rights Project. I only heard about them the other day in a Zoom discussion with Wendy and Mel.
Legal rights.
Legal rights, yeah,
Yes,
as
yes.
opposed to moral rights. Um, yeah, so I'm not sure if anyone else has heard of them, but I just found it really interesting looking at their website and hearing about what they do. At the moment, their clients are an elephant, I believe, who is in a zoo in New York called Happy, and I believe they've also have some clients that are chimpanzees. I did actually email them yesterday, inquiring if part of their long-term vision as an organization is to have clients from other species, such as mice or chickens, cows, and pigs, and other animals used in labs and farms. So
I can answer that, Brad.
go for it.
Steve Wise is the person behind that, and his first book was called Rattling the Cage, and then his second book, the title of that escapes me. He kind of graded other animals in terms of their kind of moral importance, and mice would have been well down. So he kind of created a hierarchy, and that created a lot of problems in the movement. But effectively, he was saying in Rattling the Cage that that law is kind of judge-made. It's called the common law. It's judge-made law. And so what you need is for a case to go to court and, as it were, get a precedent set by a judge, and that then becomes something that everybody else then can refer to. So it's a little bit like, you know, punching a hole, you know, and trying to follow through, or taking a brick out of a wall. And that's why he called it Rattling the Cage. The idea was to try to create the best case possible. And so I believe that they tried to, as clients, they had chimpanzees first, I believe, and other great apes. But in terms of the mice thing, I'm afraid their interest in mice would be quite low on their hierarchy. Whether Steve Wise still adheres to that hierarchy, I don't know, because I have not really followed his stuff for a long time. Maybe it's a question you can ask.
Well, and to that point, Roger, I think maybe it's worth taking a bit of time to cover the difference between legal and moral rights, because I've seen a lot of comments coming through as far as who's going to enforce these rights.
Okay.
And I think it's worth mentioning that the focus of the philosophy of animal rights is on moral rights. They're not, you know, no one needs to grant them or enforce them. This is a thing that we all have, we share with our fellow animals. You know, our experiencing life gives us that valid claim to basic moral rights. And I specifically like to think of it as the right to be respected, which means not being bred, used, or killed. And I think when people think of legal rights, I personally used to think, you know, that's where we really need to focus. However, when 99% of the population isn't vegan, I'm just not sure what kind of ending use type legislation we're going to get. It'll be interesting to follow this organization to see kind of what traction they make. However, it seems like most of the legal reforms actually tend to be welfare reforms and not actually ending use. So that's the key thing. So it's not a matter of who's going to enforce these rights. These rights are things that other animals already have.
The general point about going to law right now is the fact that you're doing it within a deeply speciesist culture. And so therefore, it's a deeply speciesist legal system that is trying to get their head around the idea of animal rights. And that's why they usually translate it to welfare, because that's what they understand in the same way as everybody else does.